back to my channel, I'm the Movie Optimist, where I try and find the silver linings in even the worst of films. Today, I want to talk briefly about something that just happened that took the world by storm, at least the world of superhero fandom. And that's that the Russo Brothers dropped a photo on their Instagram and told the audience, or anyone looking at the photo, to look really hard. And at first glance, anyone could look at this and just think, one of the Russos sitting in a chair behind the scenes on the set for Avengers Doomsday. But if you remember all the way back to Avengers Endgame, or was it Infinity War? It was one of the two. They posted a picture that was actually decrypted by a bunch of fans to say the name Endgame or Infinity War. It was one of the two. It was made up of, like, they put different pieces of metal and like furniture together that if you look closely and you really squinted your eyes, it formed the name of the last Avengers film. And here they are again doing the same thing. Now, a lot of people have been speculating that it means that they've spotted an X and a V and an A, which would imply it's X-Men versus Avengers, which, look, I'm sure we're going to get a moment where they battle in this film. Essentially, what I think the story of Doomsday is, literally all these different Earths are decaying and dying, and everyone's fighting to save their planet. And essentially, at some point, the Avengers are going to run into the X-Men, which are part of a different universe that don't know who the Avengers are, and they're going to think that they're bad guys, and they're all going to wind up fighting, and then ultimately have to team up to save the day together. You've seen this a million times, whether that be in Kong vs. Godzilla or Batman vs. Superman, where they start off as enemies, they wind up as friends. So I'm sure we're going to get that. But I actually have a different theory. I don't think that they're teasing XVA, and maybe they did put that in there for people that are really eagle hawking this thing and trying to pick it apart. But what I really noticed, if you look in the center of the screen, there is a spotlight up top and it's shining a light down on the rafters. Now, a lot of people could just throw this away and think nothing of it. Like, yeah, they're on set, of course there's going to be a light somewhere. But if they're posting this on Instagram and they're telling people to look very closely, nothing in this photo is accidental. It is all very meticulous and very purposeful. And what that light is shining on are these rafters, but if you look closely at the rafters, it looks like 3 A's. And, well, that could be constructed as a bunch of different things. A lot of people think that it could just be the way that the metal's constructed. But again, this is intentional, and they want you to look close. And when you look at it, it is shining a light on 3 A's. And what I actually think this photo is implying, outside of X-Men versus Avengers, which again I think we're going to get, is that they're going to break Doomsday into 2 movies, and then we're going to get Avengers Doomsday Part 1, Avengers Doomsday Part 2, and then Avengers Secret Wars, which is going to culminate the multiverse saga. And I think it just makes sense because Doomsday is literally going to have like 50 different people in it. Secret Wars is the movie that's going to have like 100 people. That's going to be an insane amount of people. But Secret Wars to me is also the culmination of what happens in Doomsday, where everything that happens in that leads to Secret Wars. Whereas I think Doomsday is going to be a lot of the setup, and then Secret Wars is going to be the grand finale showdown. I think that Secret Wars is just going to be a massive action film where it's all of the Avengers from every single universe, Fox, Sony, Marvel, Disney, all battling each other on this planet, fate of their own world. Whereas in Doomsday is going to be setting that up. So it's almost like part 1 and part 2 are the first 2 acts or the first 2 structures of a film, and then the climax is Secret Wars. And the reason why that makes sense to me is when you have this many people in Doomsday, how do you get enough time to shine with this many people in only like 2 hours and 45 minutes? It sounds like a lot, but when we're getting the original X-Men back, James Marsden coming back as Cyclops, Professor X, Magneto, Deadpool, Wolverine, all of the Avengers, when you get all these people, they all need to be set up. You can't just have the movie going along, we're following Thor and Spider-Man, and then out of nowhere, boom, the X-Men from the Fox universe come up, and let's not discuss that at all. No, I think that this movie's, at least the first part, is going to be predominantly set up, and of course there's going to be some action set pieces in there. It's a superhero film. They know that they need to wow kids that are in the audience. They can't just be sitting there listening to people talk in rooms for 2.5 hours. But I think a lot of it's going to be set up where part 1 is we're going to follow the X-Men a little bit on their universe and the struggles that they're going through and what villain they're battling at the time. And we're going to follow our Avengers that we're used to and what they're going through and maybe trying to stop Doom. And then they're going to meet the Fantastic Four, which the Fantastic Four was the setup for them. So when they come in, it won't feel like, okay, well, who are these guys and what are they going through? We already know what they're going through. They're chasing after their son that was stolen by Victor Von Doom. And you get all of this setup, and then it'll end on a cliffhanger. And then part 2 is we're going to see the X-Men versus the Avengers for whatever reason. And then that's going to culminate into Secret Wars. And I think that that's genius. You're going to get 3 Avengers films in essentially a year. And where Marvel's not in a very good place right now, they're kind of struggling getting people to even show up to the good movies. Say what you will about Captain America Brave New World, about the Marvels, about Doctor Strange, about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. They put out a lot of mediocre films to just downright awful awful films. But Thunderbolts was incredible, and it was worth every penny that it did not get. What I mean by that is the movie only made like $350 to $400 million, and that movie easily deserved to be a $700 to $800 million movie. The heart was there, the action was there, the characters, all the performances, the acting. It was truly an incredible MCU film, and one of the best since Phase 3 before Infinity War and Endgame, and didn't get it. It did not do well. It did well on Disney Plus, where a lot of people that decided to skip it because of how bad Marvel's been lately finally found it, and hopefully that propels a future Thunderbolts movie, but it didn't do well in theaters. And Fantastic Four barely broke even. The movie cost like $200 million to make. They needed to make 2.5 its production budget to break even, so they needed to make around $500 million, and they did. They made like 520, which, sure, it didn't tank. It made a pocket change amount of money in Hollywood standards, but it was nowhere near a success. It was still considered a failure. It did not make enough profit back to warrant being considered successful. Now, I think that it will find its success on VOD, where it was like #1 streaming, and it's going to get more money. And for those of you who don't think that VOD matters, it absolutely does. It contributes to the overall profitability of the film. And again, the movie is profitable, just not by what Marvel would have liked. Probably like $100-200 million would have been considered successful, which is also why Superman was deemed successful, because after its VOD, its brand deals, its $150 million profit from theaters, it was considered profitable, whereas in Fantastic Four was not. I am in the minority of people that don't think Fantastic Four is good. I thought it was a very dull superhero movie that was wrapped up in a decent family drama. Never in my life do I want to go and see a superhero film where there's no fight scenes in it. Like, I'm sorry, and I don't care if that's what the Fantastic Four are like in the comics. That's probably why the comics were canceled, because that's lame. No one wants to watch superheroes not be superheroes. Like, if I want to go watch people sit in a room and talk for 2.5 hours, I'll go watch a courtroom drama. In my superhero films, I expect action, and I'm diverging way too far from the path. I didn't like it, but I'm aware I am in the minority. A lot of people love the Fantastic Four, and that did not do well. So Marvel is not in a good place right now. So to have 3 Avengers films come out in 1 year could definitely set the ship on the right path to getting them back to the point where everyone feels like they need to go out and see every single Avengers movie that comes out. But only time will tell. What do you guys think this photo is implying? Do you agree with me with the 3 A's, meaning that it's being broken up into 3 separate films? Or do you think that that means nothing and it's just an X-Men v Avengers image that they're posting? Let's talk about it in the comments down below. And as always, guys, hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time.